In the previous chapter, we saw the decision-making process when it's about exchanging certain pieces or avoiding the exchange. Now we get to the chapter where we should take a decision on capturing a pawn or a poisoned pawn or a piece or not to capture. And this chapter seems like much easier on the first glance, but here, especially when it's about taking dangerous material or like poisoned pawns or something like this, then the emotions take over, and the emotions are responsible for, well, breaking up the calculation process or taking decisions which are based on fear. And actually, psychology and chess is something very much related, and the emotions and the psychology connected to it will often be your worst enemy. Trust me on that. Here, very classical and easy example, yet I think here the decision-making process was based on emotions and certain kind of wrong experience, because okay, here to take or not to take is a question. Bishop d1 is the alternative. If you take, you see immediately bishop and rook are in one file, so you see rook c6. Then in this moment your emotions say like, oh no, this doesn't work. You break up and the thing is over. You play bishop d1 and the chance was gone. But when we look a little bit deeper in it and we manage to put our emotions aside and ignore them for a while, right? Then we see latest after rook c6 that also, like from the tactical points of view, the bishop on d4 is an unprotected piece and the king is in the same diagonal. And when we just pay attention to these two tactical indications, then we understand that maybe the whole thing is not as easy as it may seem, and we get to the fact, okay, when we calculate checks, captures are the first two categories, then we see third category is moves with a threat, we get to rook d1. And latest here we witness that rook takes c4 is a huge blunder, because we can take on d4, we play bishop c3, we get back our piece, we remain with a pawn up, and likely we win the game. Here, of course, like once you already saw the motive, then the rest is easy, because after rook d1, the only chance for black is to take on f2 to get back the pawn. Bishop takes f2, rook takes c4 and b5. But even here, for example, like rook b4 to attack b5, we capture on b6, we give a check in order to either have a check on d6 or to play anyway rook d6, so king g8 and rook d6. And here some good chances to play on for a win, even so objectively the game is drawn. But this is not important. If you compare this position to that position which arises in the game, then we can agree we prefer the previous one. Here, Kazintseva played bishop d1. I think she saw bishop c4, rook c6. Emotions started to overcome her, and she decided this is too dangerous with a pin. So she played bishop d1, and after rook c3, the king went to f6, e5, and so on. And this position was not very nice, and eventually she lost it. Actually, in my opinion, a quite easy example to consider bishop takes c4 or not to consider it. But as I said, even the easy things sometimes become very difficult when your emotions are your first guide. And the only hint I can give you, I mean, emotions to have during a game is something very normal, and emotions are mainly responsible of our eventual decisions, but try sometimes to really be rational, put the emotions aside and do the kind of computer-like calculation without having any emotions. That may help you to not break up calculations too early, as probably here it was the case.